Hey, it's Amber. Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. I make videos about kind of crunchy motherhood lifestyle and more recently about trying to get pregnant with baby number 2. If you like that sort of content, I'd love to see you around here more often. Just hit that little subscribe button down below. And my dishwasher is on, so if you hear a little bit of background noise, that's what it is. I'm sorry. Today's video is for the book girlies who are either trying to conceive or going through infertility like I am. It took my husband and I 8 tries to get pregnant with our now almost 3-year-old. We are 18 months into trying for baby number 2, and I'm sharing 4 books that I've read and loved that you might also want to read if you're in either of those boats. The first 2 are great for anyone who's trying for a baby, even if you haven't reached that 12-month mark, and I hope you never do, and all of these are perfect for anyone going through infertility. Even if you don't consider yourself to be much of a reader, I would still consider some of these books because trying to conceive can absolutely turn you into a reader, but it might look like reading blog post after article instead of reading one entire book on the subject, but we're gonna talk more about that later. The first book is called Taking Charge of Your Fertility. I feel like every woman should read this book at least once in their lifetime. I actually wish that this was given to young girls in high school as a part of sex ed. So that being said, if you have not read this book, even if you're not trying for a baby, you absolutely should. I read this book cover to cover when Alex and I were about 4 months into trying for our first, picked it up to refresh my memory on a few things when we started trying again, and ended up reading over half of it a second time. If you've read absolutely nothing on fertility or trying to conceive, whether you've been trying for over a year or under a year, this book is the place to start, in my opinion. It goes deep into how the female and I think male reproductive systems work, teaches you how to thoroughly track your cycle. If you've watched any of my other videos about fertility where I've discussed how I track my cycle or just tracking my cycle in general, this book is where I learned it all from, and it goes into some testing and treatment options that you can look into if pregnancy hasn't happened. And contrary to what is popularly advised by a lot of medical providers, at least here in the US, this book talks about how if you have not gotten pregnant within 3 to 4 months of tracking your cycle and having well-timed intercourse, that certain tests are worth looking into. And a quick note on cycle tracking if you're unfamiliar with it. In this book, the author teaches a pen and paper method, which if that's for you, great, but it's not for me, and so I don't want anyone to be discouraged or feel like maybe this book isn't worth reading because you don't want to print out sheets of paper and write everything down. There are so many apps that allow you to log and record everything that's taught in this book. I personally use Ovia. I love it because it's completely free. You can, of course, track your period. You can track your symptoms, how you're feeling, cervical fluid, how high your cervix is, how does it feel, is it open, closed, and then there's a section that allows you to jot down any other notes that you might want to remember. So I think that this book is, I'm pointing to my Kindle, it's right here. This book is still worth reading even if you don't want to use the exact method of tracking that she teaches, because she teaches you how to interpret all the data that you're going to be recording. The second book is It Starts with the Egg, and similar to Taking Charge of Your Fertility, regardless of where you are at, if you're trying to conceive and you are going down Google rabbit holes on a regular basis, trust me, just stop and get this book instead. Interestingly enough, I came across this book at around 6 months of trying for number 2, and I didn't want to read it because I felt like it was going to be information overload for where I was at, even though I was reading articles, blog posts, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, just filling my brain with fertility related information from probably hundreds of different sources. Recently, when I finally picked it up, I was kicking myself for not reading it when I originally came across it because I could have saved myself so much time and sanity. The thing to know about this book versus the articles you're gonna find on the internet is that a lot of those, not all, but a lot, are written by people like myself who are sharing their experience, and I love that they're opening up like that and allowing themselves to be vulnerable and sharing what they know or what they believe to be true with other people, but there's not necessarily going to be any data to prove or disprove what they're saying, which is part of the reason that a lot of women like myself end up trying a laundry list of supplements, lifestyle changes, and diet changes simply because somebody else on the internet said it worked for them. This book, on the other hand, is written by a biochemist, and it's a research-based book. I'm not gonna lie, it is a little bit dry, like there's not a lot of floof added to it, but if you're to the point where you're like, just give me the information that I need right now, you might actually appreciate that. I really loved this book. The author talks about lifestyle habits, supplements, diet to improve egg quality. There's also a whole chapter dedicated to improving sperm health as well, but everything she talks about is backed up by scientific studies and research and facts. This is the reason that I feel like I could have saved myself so much time if I would have just read this book first, because I have spent tons of time reading 10 articles just about one supplement and then listening to a podcast on it. And then once I decide like, okay, yeah, maybe I'm gonna take it, then trying to find YouTube videos talking about other women's experience taking it and did it work for them, yes or no? And then it's trying to figure out how much do I need to take? Can I take it throughout my whole cycle or just a part of my cycle? And in this book, she tells you exactly which supplements are actually proven to help increase egg quality. She tells you how much you can take, and it's just so much better than trying to find and do all the research yourself. She also talks about different fertility tests that you might want to have done, and when it comes to blood panels, she tells you not just what the normal range is, but what the optimal range is for fertility. This is a good sized book, but do not be intimidated by that, because the majority of women are not going to need to read this book from cover to cover. There are going to be chapters that likely are not relevant to you that you can skip over and come back to if it ever does become relevant. For example, there was an entire chapter dedicated to low ovarian reserve. My AMH is like 10 point something, so I have the exact opposite problem. I just skipped that chapter entirely because it doesn't apply to me at all right now. The third book is called Infreakinfertility. I loved this book so much. I actually wrote to the author to tell her how great it was and how helpful I found it considering what I'm going through, and she responded. If you are going through infertility, first of all, I'm so sorry and I am sending love. My heart is with you. Second, that's 4. Please read this book. It is so good. I promise you, you will love it. And it's not a very long book, so it won't interfere with you reading those other 2 bigger books if you want to read those as well. But especially read this book if you don't really have anyone that you can talk to about what you're going through. This book feels like you are on a coffee date with a girlfriend who has gone through what seems like almost every aspect of infertility that someone can go through. This was so healing to read, and I actually do have a couple of people that I talk to every once in a while about what I'm going through, and they're amazing. I love them, but it's not the same as talking to someone who is or has already gone through the same thing, and I think they know that. This book gives you that kind of connection. I was laughing at parts of this book. I was crying, just feeling all the feelings. And this book is more than the author just retelling her experience. She gives you tips about handling different aspects of infertility at the end of every chapter, and there is a section in each chapter that her husband wrote about what he was going through at that time. It is just a good book in so many different areas, on so many different levels. I think that of all the books I'm sharing here, this one is by far my favorite. The last book is called Spirit Babies and How to Communicate with Them. And I am just gonna say right here, this one is probably not going to be for everyone. If you are very religious, this book might be of no interest to you, and that is okay, because there are tons of God-centered books on fertility and infertility that I just have not gotten to yet. Although I will say that this author does mention God a decent amount. This one is also not expressly written for women going through infertility. So if you've only been trying for 3 months and this book is piquing your interest, go for it. There's plenty in there for you. The reason that I sort of classified this one as being better for women who are struggling with their fertility is because I personally, around 14, 15 months of trying, was having a spiritual crisis. I was just like, what is life? Am I being punished for something? Where is God in all of this? Why do I have the desire to have another baby if I can't be pregnant? Is there like a lesson that the universe is trying to teach me through all of this? I'm not in full crisis mode anymore, but when I was, I picked up this book. And I'm not gonna lie, it is a little bit out there. There definitely were a few things that I'm not sure if I agree with, but I think that's the great thing about this type of information, is that you can take what you believe, take what serves you, and leave the rest. I think the title of this book pretty much speaks for itself. There are quite a few step-by-step meditations and guides, and they are pretty detailed. So the only other thing I would say about this book is that it might be a better one to actually read as opposed to listen to if you're generally an audiobook person. The last book I read of all of these was It Starts with the Egg. And after I finished it, I immediately started looking for another book to read on infertility or fertility, and nothing was really piquing my interest the way that all of these had. And so I paused and I realized that from these 4 books, I felt seen spiritually, I felt validated emotionally, and fully equipped with useful and factual information. And it just so happened that I finished It Starts with the Egg the day before Alex and I had our first appointment at a fertility clinic. So it felt like divine timing, kind of. When I thought about it, I realized, at least right now, I have everything I need to comfortably step into this next chapter of our fertility journey, which brings me to the last thing that I want to recommend to you. Read books that have nothing to do with fertility that you just really, really enjoy. Trying to get pregnant can easily become your entire personality if you let it. So don't forget to read books that really catch your attention and pull you in, so that for a while, trying to get pregnant or infertility can take a back seat in your mind. If you have any books about TTC or infertility that you love and would like to share, please leave them in the comments down below. I would love to hear about it, and I'm sure other women would too. I really hope you enjoyed and found this helpful. I am sending you so much love, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.